deep in the depths of an old, abandoned circus tent, hidden behind a dense forest. Rumors spread about a small figure still wandering among the rusted carousels and tattered decorations. The locals called him General Dark Tom. In the village, whispers told of those who encountered him never returning. While many dismissed the story as a mere legend, some knew that a dark truth lay within. Charles Stratton was born on a dark, rainy night on January 4, 1838, in a small house in Connecticut. His parents, simple farmers, were overjoyed when they saw their healthy and strong son. But their joy was short-lived. Within a few months, they noticed that Charles had stopped growing. Doctors were puzzled, unable to explain the reason. By the time the boy was 4 years old, he looked like an infant. Yet his eyes held an eerie maturity that unsettled even the strongest will. Soon, word of him reached the famous showman P.T. Barnum, who found Charles and offered his parents money for the right to include him in his circus show. In desperation and poverty, his parents agreed. Barnum's circus became Charles' new home. He was dressed in miniature costumes, made to dance and sing before crowds who marveled at his innocent appearance. But behind the curtains, Charles was far from innocent. Other performers bullied him, mocking his small stature. Over time, his eyes grew cold, and his smile became disturbingly strained. One night, after another humiliating performance, Charles disappeared. He was searched for all night but found in the morning sitting in the corner of the tent, surrounded by shadows. His clothes were dirty, and his gaze was different. He whispered something, but no one could understand his words. From then on, strange things began happening in the circus. One by one, circus performers started disappearing. First, the acrobat, who loved mocking Charles, vanished. Then, the animal trainer who had struck him during a rehearsal. People whispered that strange murmurs could be heard at night, and eerie symbols appeared on the tent walls. Each time someone disappeared, Charles was always nearby, quietly smiling. Barnum tried to investigate, but each attempt led to a dead end. He decided to shut down the circus, but it was too late. One night, Barnum heard whispers behind his door. When he opened it, he saw Charles, his eyes lifeless and his thin lips curled into a haunting smile. The next morning, Barnum was found dead in his bed. After Barnum's death, the circus was abandoned. But the stories of General Dark Tom lived on. Locals claimed to have seen his small figure wandering among the abandoned tents. Those who tried to approach vanished without a trace. One of these brave souls was a journalist who set out to write an article about the legend. The journalist found the old circus and stepped inside. He described a silence interrupted only by the creaking of old swings. Then, he heard a whisper soft, enveloping. He turned and saw Charles small, yet terrifying. The last thing he managed to write in his notebook. He is looking right at me. His eyes, they are empty, but I feel like he sees my soul. After the journalist's disappearance, the circus became an even darker place. Those who knew about his investigation avoided the cursed tent. However, some brave souls attempted to uncover the truth, but they all vanished without a trace. One night, villagers noticed a light flickering inside the circus tent. They gathered at the forest's edge, but no one dared to come closer. The light flickered and disappeared, as if taunting those watching. The next morning, the tent stood empty once more, but the journalist's notebook was found nearby. The last entry read, "He is calling my name." With the journalist's disappearance, a new wave of fear began. Locals claimed they sometimes heard soft footsteps in the woods, as if something small was wandering between the trees. Those who dared to approach the circus too closely spoke of strange shadows moving within the tent. Some believed that Charles Stratton had fully merged with the darkness, and that the circus now belonged to him. Others thought his spirit was searching for new victims, but all agreed on one thing: no one wanted to find out for themselves. As they stepped inside the tent, the air grew heavy, and the shadows began shifting on their own. A small figure stood on the stage, its lifeless eyes staring directly at the unwelcome guests. A whisper surrounded them, sending chills down their spines. One of the investigators screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the silence. After the disappearance of the investigators, fear among the villagers reached its peak. No one dared to approach the circus tent anymore, and even during the day, the place seemed too ominous to be near. But the darkness did not stay confined to the circus. It began to spread. Villagers began noticing strange occurrences. Shadows in their homes stretched and moved, even when there was no light source to cast them. In the dead of night, faint footsteps could be heard, as if something small was creeping through the narrow village streets. Some swore they saw a tiny figure in their window reflections, but when they turned around, no one was there. One of the villagers, an old fisherman, decided to break the unspoken rule and went to the circus. He said he wanted to uncover the truth and put an end to the legend once and for all. At dawn, he was nowhere to be found, not at home, not in the village. Only his old fishing hat lay at the forest's edge, and beside it, words were scratched into the dirt. "He is coming for you." From that moment, the village became a ghost town. People disappeared without a trace, and those who remained never stepped outside after sunset. The old circus was no longer just an abandoned place, had become a gateway to something dark, something that could not be stopped. From that moment, the village became a ghost town. People disappeared without a trace, and those who remained never stepped outside after sunset. The old circus was no longer just an abandoned place, had become a gateway to something dark, something that could not be stopped. If you don't subscribe, you will never uncover the dark secrets of the old circus performers. Don't forget to like and subscribe to never miss a new terrifying story.